Forward tonight to a lecture and maybe demonstration of how to make a basket out of pine needles. And I spent most of yesterday afternoon and a little while this morning finished mowing in an area where we got a lot of pine needles, and I thought, what if I was to pick up all these pine needles and bring it would probably be enough to make a huge basket to make this one look small, but I don't know how to do it. Maybe if I'm careful and watch tonight, I'll learn a little something on how to do this. So Linda Fox, and one of her many skills and talents is basket making tonight with pine needles. Linda Fox.
Okay.
Turn your mic on.
Yeah, I've got it on. The best way to teach you about baskets and how to do them at the same time. I used to teach in the classes at the University in Oregon. So, first thing you want to do is pick up your pine needles. When you're picking up your pine needles, you want as close to as when they fell as you can possibly do. If you go out there and there's a pile of them, never take the bottom. Take them fresh off the top. Because what happens is if they sit there in a pile, they'll start molding. And if they got these, if you look at it and it's covered with little black specks, you don't want it because your basket will decay. You can't keep a basket for any length of time if it decays. So what you do is you get the freshest ones you can get, and you take a pan and fill it up with water, and you get it boiling, and you put some glycerin in it. I'm terrible about measuring. I put some glycerin in it. So, just so you have some in it, and have it boiling, and then take it off the burner, set it on the side, and have your needles ready to go in it. And what I mean by ready to go in it is all of the dark ends going the same direction. And I'll show you why you do that. But you just drop these in it, and you soak them in that glycerin water, hot glycerin water, for 20 minutes. And then you take them out and put them in a towel and keep them moist. And when you're working with them, they're flexible. If you take them out, if you leave them hard and try working with them, well, that one's flexible. But usually they'll just crumble. They won't stay together for you. And that's another way that you can't do a nice, neat one. Then you have to decide, once you've got them like this, what you're going to do next with them. If you want them to be just like this, you want them to be plain. And plain meaning this kind of work, where it goes around and around, and you don't see any dark ends. And I have books and books up here, but there's books on what you can make them look like by leaving these on. You can leave the ends on, and it can be part of your artwork of how you're making your basket look. But if you don't want them on, you take a sharp knife, and all you do is you rake. You don't cut, you rake across it until you get it down to a ball at the end, and you pop that ball off, trying not to separate the three. They come in 3 little strands, and you save yourself a lot of work if you don't break them clear apart. So see, I've taken that black crusty end off. Okay, so you want to keep these separate from your other ones, and then we picked them up, we soaked them, we prepared them like we want. They're all warm, I mean not warm, but all wet and moist. And then what you want to do is you want to decide, are you going to use sinew or raffia for your wrap. This is raffia. This is, I know I had one. No, that's not it. Anyhow, raffia is this. Here it is. I got my needle on it. This is what it looks like. Okay. Now, if you want to use this, I use the darning needle. And you want to use not the sharp one. You want to use a blunt one. because you don't want to cut your pine needles, or it's the same as breaking it. You want to go between them.
Is that the same needle that you use for cross stitch?
Mm-hmm. It is. Okay, you have your choices. You can order these online from Fire Mountain. I couldn't remember a while ago. All different colors. This is sinew. This is man-made sinew. And it's waxed. And when it's waxed, it helps you when you're wanting your tension, trying to get your attention to make things work out. I've got some over here that I've started for other classes. This one I started it in red sinew. And another thing is you gotta have a gauge. Because when you start putting these on, you've gotta decide what size you want your rounds to be that you're going around to make them even. Okay, you can use, I teach all my students, you can buy a bag of your straws, plastic straws. Cut them in chunks, use them for a guide. I have a husband that made me fancy ones. I have my brass ones in all different sizes. So I can just put a brass one on there, fill it up, and keep going. So I've got big ones and down the little ones.
With brass job, you can flare them.
Yeah, he flares.
It's real easy because you gotta keep sticking those pine needles in there as it goes. And
Well,
that's tied up as it goes. And just,
Yeah, if you don't do that, it's hard to keep it moving. The key to your rounds is you want this here tight enough that it won't fall off, but not so tight you can't move it, because you're moving it. And as you're feeding this on here, this pile will start getting thinner. When it starts getting thinner, I'm a little ahead of myself here, but when it starts getting thinner, you take this, and remember there's 3 prongs on here. You go in the center of this stack that's on here. Put it right in the center. Move your gauge back to tighten it up and keep going. That's how you keep feeding it. So it never ends till you're ready to end it. You just keep adding these little rods in the center. And if you get it so tight this won't move, then you're getting your circle too big. Or if it's too loose and floppy and starts falling around, then your circle's too small. So you want to keep it the same size. That's what you have to do to keep it the same size as you're going around. Okay, let me make sure I'm not missing something. I told you about the sinew. You can get it all different colors.
you got that wax.
Another thing you can do, I didn't climb up or have Gary climb up and get them, but I have tubs and tubs. You take these needles at this stage. Say you want some to make a red basket. Say you want all your pine needles to be red. Okay, you take these and you soak them. Again, you make your boiling water and you dissolve Ritz dye, just regular clothes dye, Ritz dye. You dissolve that in there, get it dissolved real good, set it aside, drop your needles in it that are already dampened so it'll absorb it fast enough. And then you take them out and you lay them, I lay them on newspaper and break it down, and you've got to keep turning them so they'll, like hay, you got to keep turning it so it'll dry. And you can make any color you want of a basket. I have tubs, those big blue tubs, about every shade you can imagine of needles. This is very expensive if you buy this stuff off the internet. That's why I'm telling you how to gather it, how to make it, how to get what you want, so you don't have to buy all that, because Ritz dye can give you any color you want.
Does it get on your hands though when it's still moist?
I use, those tongs.
Oh,
I just take a water with a tong and put them over on a towel, and then I use the towel to move them around, rough them, dry them. But, and the sinew you do have to buy, and it comes in, like I said, and what it is, it's waxed. So what happens is with it being waxed, you can make it go back together into one if it hasn't dried out too much. Yeah, there it goes. See? It's waxed enough, it really stays tight when you're working with it. Okay,
Well, you got that roll of sinew right there.
yeah, I buy it like
That
this.
stuff's pretty expensive.
And then I broke it down like this for my students so they could just get a roll and work with. These were real popular. They love the portraits. But anyhow, you can make any size basket you want. I mean, you make little. I have a little teeny tiny one, and you can sell those little teeny tiny ones. Believe it or not, $25. That high, about that big around. Pine needle baskets, finished, in good quality. Work on them. I mean, they use them in all these, like jewelry shows. They like to put their jewelry across it, on it, because it really adds to it. Okay, here's another one. This one here, when you're making it, I'll show you how you start the center. But when you're making it, you go out, and when you go out, common sense tells you that it's getting bigger. You can't make it work if you don't change somehow. It'd be too wide of spaces and your needles wouldn't work right. So you add rows when you need to. I go out so far and then I add rows. Then you can see where my second step down of adding more rows. You work your rows in and you keep it tight. And one thing I wanted to show you, like this here one, anytime you want it to be flat, you just keep doing it flat and make the flat pieces like out there. If you want it to come up and be a basket, it's all done with tension. All you do is take your fingers and keep working this like this, and when you put your sinew loop across, pull it tighter. You can tighten this up and tighten it up and have it this narrow. You can loosen the same way. You can stretch them down, push them down. So the shape of your basket, you're making with tension. That's the only thing different in making it. Gary teaches, he hasn't done it forever, but he teaches classes on how to make these glass beads. And he does those with the, what do you call it? Copper tubing. I was taught how to do it, and it's not my favorite thing to do. It's not enough, challenge for me. So anyhow, I taught Gary into doing it. And it's done with
hot work too.
It's done with
3,600 degrees.
Yeah, you do it with a certain torch, but it's crystals and powder of glass. And it's got to be a certain kind of glass. You have to buy that. But you buy these powders and crystals, and you actually take he has a steel rod that he's got that copper piece on, which if it was like this, it'd be about, smaller than that. But he takes that on that rod and he rolls that that piece of copper around and around until you get it so hot that it's red hot. I mean, it's just total red. Then you take it over and you roll it in your powder. And then when it starts cooling down, you put more on. You decide how thick you want it, how thin you want it. And then when you get it to past that stage, then you can put your chunks in it. It's little chunks of glass. And you roll it with the torch again and melt those little rocks into the fine stuff. And you can make your own beads. Any color you want. I don't have it here tonight, but I have a planter. Those planters that are round like this, and then they have a circle here so you can set your pot in it and hang it on the deal. Well, I figured out if you take that same planter, and I had Gary cut the rod at the bottom so I could feed on the beads. Gary made all the beads, and then we put it back together. He welded it, and then I did a dream catcher in the middle of all these beads on this rod. And you can stand it anywhere you want to stand it. So when I do my jewelry shows, I hang stuff on the beaded racks that Gary made. So he gets involved in my stuff too. Okay, this is another style you can do. I take gourds and my handyman drills holes and cuts holes and stuff with the Dremel. And then I draw on them, I wood burn it, then I stain it whatever color I want it stained. Then I do my pine needle. That's pine needle and that's pine needle and sinew. This right here on the top with some beads added. This is a cute idea I came up with. You can take this is the basket, and here's its lid. But if you want to do it different than that, you can use it as a stand. So I make it so it's a stand or a lid. When you're doing these, there's that tension I was telling you about. You know, I had it going flat. I started adding rows, widen it out, and then you start bringing it up. And you just keep bringing it up until you're ready to stop with it. And this one here is done out of pine needle and sinew. This right here.
Do you ever decrease the rows?
Mm-hmm.
As you're going up, you hold it, but then you start decreasing?
Yeah, it helps tighten it down. You got to be more careful though with decreasing or increasing once you get up in this area, because it shows. Down here you can do it and get by with it, but when you get up in this area, you know, this line would not be a uniform line if you did very much increasing or decreasing, unless you had a special place that you did that all the way around and it becomes a pattern. Then they don't notice that you're doing it to form it different. You can do that, but you don't want to do one here, maybe one here. I mean, you would not have a pattern when you're done. So you got to keep track of when you're increasing and decreasing. And one of my favorite, this is just the side. There's one laying right over there in front of that green one down on the table. That's called the wheat pattern. And I love the wheat pattern. This is the wheat pattern. And what you're doing is each time you take your needle around to lock it, you're going through and splitting the sinew, and it gives it a wheat pattern. And it's a real attractive pattern. And this one here's also got sinew done in the center in a little design. You can take walnuts, slice them, glue them together, and it becomes the bottom of your basket. Or a hole in the side of your basket. Like if you want to make a hole inside your basket in a big one, or a gourd, you use this. It really feeds in well because it's natural, you know, using natural things. Okay, let's see, what else do I want? Oh, I brought this in here. This in here is due for some work. It started fading. All the colors are fading. So what you do is I clean it up, let it dry, and then you can see, and this is what color it was. What you can do is you take some acrylic paint, water it down, and get you a flat paintbrush and dip it in that, and then dip it across a paper towel so it's not real wet. And then you just carefully with the paintbrush go over this faded part and bring it back to the right color again. You don't have to throw away because it's ugly now. You take it back to the color it was just by using some acrylic. And the Native Americans, you got to remember the colors they used for their tribe is the colors that was available in berries and leaves and things like that. They took anything colorful and ground it down till it was real fine, added liquid to it, and that's how they painted. They painted everything that way.
Can you paint it to begin with? You know, like instead of
Yeah,
have it all one color and then just paint the designs on it after it?
Yeah. Or you can do it as you go. I've done it both ways. I just soon do it afterwards, but because it's much easier. But like those out there, the raffia was stained, you know, dyed with the Ritz before it was put in that basket. And then all you have to do is you have to lay the one that you were working with down rack the new one over top and just keep going with the new color and then change out again and go for the next one. So, and then there's patterns like these flat jobbies here. It's, you take and make it kind of like a dream catcher. You do the outside in the pieces that you want for the outside. And then you make your stringers like you would for dream catcher. And then this is just sinew wrapped around these 3 strands, however you want to design it. And the shells added to it. These have been colored by hand afterwards, not before. I have finally found some seashells to fix these. The seashells I used on them had a real yellowy color to them. All of the shows I've gone to, I've lost some of these seashells. I started looking for the discolored seashells, and it's not easy to find them. I finally found some, so I got to repair these baskets of whatever shells are missing. Let me see here. Oh, this in here that I have down in front of me, I did this for my students because they said, well, why can't you just use thread? Okay, this basket is thread. And you could not even think of holding water in that basket. It's just so floppy. But the thread doesn't give you hardly any tension. You can't cinch it down and go on. So it's just real floppy. A lot of people like it. And I showed them using this sinew. You can squeeze it tight. You can put some, like they used to use bees wax from the hives and stuff. You can put that around in here and you can hold water in this. That's how they made water containers. It's just by beading it real tight. There's no, I mean, you can hold it up to light and there's one little tiny spot right there I can see through. It's tight. So, let me see here. What else is good to show you? This one here is all reed. This one's all sinew. This is sinew and pine needle. You can see the different colors in them. Those out there are reed. You can even do things like this little piece here. It's a seashell with the sinew made around and with the seashell in the center, and you can make it as a little hanger. You can actually use it as a cutout in a basket. Say I was doing this basket, I could work this right in to my work doing the basket, and you could see through around the sides of it as a pattern. So once you do these, you can use them for a lot of things too.
How do you make it where it's see-through? Don't you have to stop this row and then start again, or no? You just go behind it?
Just keep going. That's why you're feeding these in. Your row never stops until you're through. It just keeps going around and around. I'll show you.
How do you decide when to stop?
When you're ready to. Okay, this one's better. Okay, if you take this, it's this in here. What you do to start with is when you want to determine your center at the bottom. You want this to be an oblong basket. You want it to be a circle. Okay, what you do is to start with, you gather up. Let's do it. You gather up some pine needles. Okay, you want to keep all these ends nice. Don't want to get them broke. And what you want is as many, I had a straw laying here. What am I going to do with my straw? My straw. Okay, you take and decide you want this to be a reed. you gotta have like, that won't fit in there. So you already know this is gotta be smaller. Unless you get something bigger, you can get bigger straws even, believe it or not.
That's where the flare really comes in handy, because it kind of trumpets out. You can stuff it in
Easier.
there and it tightens up. But you do that with copper tubing is the best way to do it.
Okay, let's
And
see.
it didn't have no copper tubing. No.
I wonder what they use.
They did.
What they use is probably two, I don't know.
Bone maybe?
Yeah,
My brother does
yeah, they use bone.
Deer bone?
Needles.
Needles. He sewed my whole dress with deer bone needles. Okay, now see that, when I filled it up to that point, this here will slide. Nothing will fall out of it, but yet I can move it. That's called your tension. That's what you want for tension. Okay, now I'm going to roll it back a ways, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, I wanted one with sinew on it. It's easier for you to see than with this raffia. The raffia is easy to work with, but it's hard for students to see it when they're very far away. Okay, this is raffia. Okay, what I did with this raffia is I took a bundle of these when I started this. You take a bundle of these and you start wrapping them with your sinew. You just take it and start wrapping it around. I'm working with the same sinew on two different projects, but you just start wrapping it around. And you keep wrapping it and wrapping it and wrapping it. As they say, about 26 rounds makes it nice. And then when you get it wrapped out, the distance that you want it wrapped, then what you're actually doing is you're just bending this in half and laying it down and continuing. That's your start. Okay? And then after you get started, oops, oh, sorry, speaker. Having a fight with the speaker up here. Okay, after, say this is it. I've wrapped them around, and I got them around there, and I want it to be like that. Then what you do is you start taking this sinew, and you come around, and instead of just looping it around this loop, you're taking it around over to the next one and going in. And what you're doing is you're making your center in the bottom. Okay. And these are dry from, these are not ones I soaked, so hopefully I won't blow them up. Sometimes they just bust and that's the end of it. Yeah, it's too dry. It's not going to go through without busting. Anyhow, you bring it over. I should have had a soaked one set up for you. You bring it down over and you lock it. And then when you get this where you want it to be, then you start narrowing it down, making it smaller. And when you make it smaller, then you start bowing it. And when you start bowing it, this is the first row, as the two in the center bent. This is the next row, and this is starting the next row after that. And that's, all you're doing is just taking it around and bringing it back through. See if this one will do it. I don't have a needle on yet. But you bring it around like so, and you bring it back through here, which brings this down. And then you come up and you try to keep the same space between these that you're wrapping back around again. Say that was locked into there, you'd bring it back up and you'd anchor it down there and sew it through. And then you'd anchor it down and sew it through. And it would continue year round. You just keep going around and around and around. Now this is set up to be an oblong basket. So dry.
How do you raise
Huh?
How do you reapply moisture when you get to that point?
When they won't bend. Oh, if I have it like this and I need more moisture, I just have to stop and soak it. And you don't have to do the glycerin only the first time. But I would just stop, moisten it, and make it rubbery and go on. Otherwise, if you keep trying to do it when it's brittle like this, you're fighting all those broken pieces, trying to get them all in.
Put it back into a pan of boiling water and you just get some water.
Once they've been boiled, I just get hot water and just put them back in it, soften them, and go to using them. Because see, this could just keep going around and around. But see how neat it looks, even though there's ends and everything in there, you don't see the ends and stuff. And it's because of how you feed it in. This is here tight, and see, you'd run out when you got this far. Well, you don't want to run out, so what you do is anytime this gets loose and floppy, take your three-pointed jobby and stick it in the middle. Sticking it in the middle keeps those ends from sticking out in your basket as you're going around. Now, if you're wanting to do a basket with these, then what you're doing is you're laying it on top and decreasing the amount of what's in here, so you can lay this here, run it through, and then you can go around and you can have a certain spot. Say you want to have a line going like this of them down the side of your basket. Well, then you know where this one is because you'll be able to see that row. So then you want to lay the next one so it's stair step from that. But that's with the ends on because you want them to show. But anything like this that you don't want to show, you use one of these and stick it in there. And if you put it in the middle, it locks it in. You don't see where you did it. But you got to constantly feed it. And the only way to know when to feed it is by your tension. If your tension's too loose, you got to put something in there or you're going to run out. But this will go around and around, and it'll be sinew in red on raffia. So it'd be red and yellow. Like that's black and kind of yellow. This would be red and yellow. The top of that one there. But you can do just straight raffia with raffia wrap. So this is both. You're using it for the strands, but you're also tying it with the same kind of material. And that's the way it looks. It becomes raffia and raffia. And I think I see one out here. And you can do all kinds of things. You can add beads. You can there's beads added there. These are called bridges. You can add bridges. That's using that same round. Only difference is I stopped tacking it onto there and rolled my sinew around it till I got to where I wanted to anchor it, and I anchored it, and then I anchored it again, and then I kept rolling. And then I just went right back to doing it like I was doing it before. And you've made a bridge and a stone. You can do things like
You make hats out of it?
you can literally make whatever you want to make out of it. This is a baby dream catcher. You can, it's just all kinds of little things that you can make, and any kind of a basket your mind can imagine. I brought a bunch of stuff here. Some of my real pretty ones that I did for my walls. They're big round ones. They're shaped like this kind of stuff. I have those in my home. But you can just, you can do it in your, I have the white sinew, so you can do white ones. You can color them you can see the raffia right here where it's still sticking out, where they did, and that's the round they made. You can tell what size they made it by this round right here. So you can draw patterns and change colors, or like I said, you hide your colors when you're changing them, just like you hide your ends. I was showing you how to hide the ends. Well, you hide the change of color is the same way. You add it in the middle, and it gets concentrated, and then you fade it out on the other end by just adding what you want over it so it disappears. So it's in and out, disappearing when you want it to. And this is done with dry needles, so as you see, as I'm talking, they're falling out. But if they're moistened, they don't do that all the time. I mean, they stay real well. But this is
Time to gather the needles, what time of the year?
usually in the fall when they all start falling. If you can get them any other time and they're not molded, you can still use them. I mean, it's not a set time. You just want to make sure that you don't get some that have been there for a long, long time, because once they get those spots, which is mold, your basket, when you did your basket up, you'd have spots all over it. It wouldn't be solid like that. Plus, it's decay, and it will continue decaying. And your basket won't last for years. It'll fall apart. People say, well, it'll decay. Not if you preserve it. And that's what this does. Boiling water and this is what preserves it. It keeps it from decaying.
When you go get another different type of pine, you just get the best ones or just different sizes?
Well, I usually try just getting the different sizes. You want a varied size. I mean, it helps because you're adding needles in.
Well,
If I
While I'm getting that, we've got
Long.
long leaf,
Yeah, long leaf, good.
is that the best? And then we call them bull pine, you know, just little, and they have little bitty,
yeah. I think I would, unless you were trying to use it to make a certain pattern of a basket, I would use all the same. If you wanted to make something that showed the difference in the two, and you wanted it to be noticeable, then it'd be fine, but you'd have to work with that and get your pattern figured out. But normally you try to work with the same, like if I'm making a basket, I like to make a basket out of all of the same needles. And you were talking about how many needles you seen? Wasn't it you that said you seen a bunch of needles? The thing of it is,
I'm sure some of them were decaying.
yeah. And not only that, if you find a bunch of needles like that, and you gather them up and you do what I just showed you to do, this right here, believe it or not, this pile right here that I'm trying to get together for you, that I can grip right here, will make a basket. I mean, seriously. You think about how many strands are going in here at a time to make a row go around. It takes a long time to use. You can make a lot of baskets out of very little amounts. I mean, I have blue tubs, those great big blue tubs, full. When I dry them, then I tie them in sizes that I can grip like this. I tie them and put them in tubs. And then I have tubs that I've also dyed. You know, I have blue tub and red and orange and green and a purple that of ones I've dyed and tied in a bunch. If you tie them in a bunch, you keep all those ends the same direction. And that getting those ends the same direction starts from the time you pick them up before you even start soaking them. I get all my ends that are these three. It doesn't probably look like different ends to you, but there's 3 pieces normally in a group. See, there's 3 in a group. And all these 3 in a groups need to be at the same end, because it helps a lot when you're feeding in your baskets. You don't want to have to dig through a stack to find the ends that has the 3. Now see down here, if I keep all these, I'm left-handed, but you can lay them whatever's comfortable to you. But if I'm working, I take my next one from this end, because I have all these ends that's holding these 3 in a row, lay in the same direction. So, because you want to have it so you can get some work done, you don't want to have to be sorting needles all the time. So you just reach for them and they're there. If it's a 1-strander like this, as long as it's not too little, I leave them in there. Because there's some times that I need just 1. Say it's getting almost tight enough, but not as tight as I want it, I can take one of these that doesn't have 3, it's only 1, and put it in there instead of putting 3 at a time in. So don't throw them away, but lay them aside so you're not grabbing for it when you're expecting to get 3 of them. Because these here help fill up your end really easy. I just take this end and I just stick it right in here in the middle and keep on and move this back a ways to hold it and keep on going. You got it going all over again. These straws work really good. Seriously, they do. Gary made me a bunch and I still use the straws.
They work pretty good with the graph where you flared it out. It's easier to stick the thing in and keep going with it. But something that Linda was talking about, you know, this is the economical way of doing this. You go on the internet, you look for needles,
Oh, they charge you a
megabucks, and just prepping them, and then they have colored and all this kind of stuff. $60 for a little hank of needles, you know, after it's all done. But if you do it yourself, you can make something, a basket that goes for $1,000, you know.
There's money
That takes
in baskets.
a lot of time to do it too.
Most people just don't do them.
I'm confused about the color changes. You know, when you get to the end, like you straw, and it's thick, and you go around, when you get to the end where you're gonna add,
A different color.
and that's where you add a different color. But how do you make it that it comes out right where you want that color to come out each time? Because don't you still have the multicolor in there when,
In the center,
on
when you want to change the color, you lay the colored ones on
the
top.
outside? Okay.
And lay these inside. When you want to change back, you let these become dominant.
Oh, okay.
And if you want to continue with your red ones, say you're using red ones, if you want to continue, because this next place you're going to use them is fairly close, I bury them in the middle. Just bury them in whatever color you want on top, bury whatever color you don't want underneath, and keep going. That's how you add them on and off. Because it's this here, what's in this tube has to be jogged. So when you put your new ones in, you jog those in about the same time to coat the outside of that. So when it comes out after you've done your wrapping, you can't tell where you've ended or started. Because if you think about it, when you're filling this up, making your line, you don't know when they ended or started. If you think about it in that sense. You know, these, you don't know, it's not like the end here and I put a bunch in.
Right.
It's me feeding them in, it never ends. But if you add your colored ones on top and feed them in, even if you have to take some of these out to make it fit, to get your red all the way around hooked in, then when it gets to the point you say, okay, I'm going to go back to the other color now. You take this color and you bury out here, you bury the red ones in the middle, and you put your dark one, your beige ones on top, and add some more if you need to make a spot that would be red about this long. And it's by just how you place them in this tube. But you don't want to lose the size of your round. So you want to, if you have to take some out to make room for the red to go over top, do it. If you have to take some red out to make this end up on the top, do it. But keep it the same size. The key is to keep it the same size and staggered, and not have somebody be able to see that you staggered when you're changing colors.
It sounds easy.
Most of my students take acrylic and water.
Paint on the outside.
Yeah, they take acrylic and water and paintbrush the color they want. Look what I did. But that, if you want to, know how and understand how they did it, the Indians I'm talking, how they did it, the proper way of doing it like they actually did it. You you would actually change the color. But you would have all your pine needles, like I have at home, done and sectioned off in colors, so you could change when you needed to change colors. But anyhow, is there any more questions, or is there something I haven't done that you might need to hear? I have,
How long does it usually take you to do like that little middle basket right there?
this one.
How long would that take?
If you're gonna really get down and work on it, most of the ones I've taught can do it within 4 to 5 days. I've had students make some of my baskets look like that. They really catch on to it and they just go for it. But that's what I'm wanting. You know, I have so many different talents, and every time I have a close call, all I can think about is, I haven't got everybody taught. I mean, somebody's got to know how to do this. I don't want to die and take it with me. I want somebody to learn how to do this. So
When you get to the finished product, how do you tie it off as
you just start pulling some of these out, thin it down, and just make it thinner and thinner till it doesn't show. And make your last loop around, make it disappear. And you don't have it end on the top. This end I can see it, but this end's right here. This one ends right here. If you look really close, you can just barely see the jagged ends on it. But yeah, you just size it down,
you gotta find the ending spot?
and it. Usually, what I do is I just set it, and if it's looking for, if I've got it the height I want it and the diameter around I want it, then I can just look and see where would be a low spot. If you find a low spot, it looks like it'd be a good spot to hide it, that's where I stop.
Yeah, I told Linda when we came out here, I said, you know, this is prime area for pine needle baskets, because you got all the material here.
Pine
You know?
woods.
You got pine trees, you know, that's the main thing.
This,
Venue, all that kind of stuff.
see, this is a book that
Gourds is great.
shows you all
That's
of,
a total different thing that you're using as a base, which you just do a little pine needle over it. And then if you want to burn stuff in.
See the cover of that.
But you got all the stuff for pine needles. You keep in mind that where.
Pine
if you
needle
didn't have a
raffia
natural resource
baskets.
or something, it wasn't happening
Yeah.
in those days.
Thank
You
you.
didn't have no UPS bringing stuff in and out.
Yeah.
now this book here,
We're good here in Texas. for
Um,
the most part.
it is very good. It can show you all kinds of variations and how to do things. I'm trying to find the page that has the actual instructions. I use this in a lot when I'm teaching people, because this really sets down and, come on, Linda, where's it at? There's a page here that shows you how this is probably one of the best books I've located in all the years I've been doing this, for learning how to, see, you can learn how to do those centers like you were asking about. It shows you how to do those. But it also has a page here that shows you how to, yeah, here it is. Shows you how to do it from start. And anybody that might be interested, I've copied this many times for instructional sheets. I usually have some with me, that's what I was looking for. This is different things, like here's the dream catcher, the thing above it, all the things that you can do. I use it a lot with gourds. I like doing my gourds. And
Have you made one of the gourd things that you pull on it and it sounds like thunder, or?
I haven't. Matter of fact, I haven't heard of it even.
My son has.
Here, this is all about coloring your needles and making different colored baskets. He's here, you can't see him very well from there, but this is pictures of shows.
Are those ones you did?
And this here is painting and beadwork. You can do a lot of beadwork. Then I have like, this gives you a wider range. Here's the one I was looking for to show you. See those ends? The ones that I left the ends on? See that basket up there that they're using the ends on it? You can make it decorative with the ends on it. If you want to actually bury it and them not to know where it ends, starts, or anything else, you want to use these. But if you want to make a pattern out of these, you can leave them on and stir stuff on them and make them show. They're just all different kinds. Most of these are on Gourds. But Nick, and I like to draw, so I draw on them. But when you draw on them, you just draw on them and then wood burn them. And then stain it. And it makes it. Let's see what I got this. I was going to see if this one had that. Because I did have some extra sheets.
Could you use acrylics and paint on the gourd?
Do what now?
Could you use acrylics and use?
Oh, to paint on the gourd? No, I use leather. It's a powder and it's a leather dye. And you just mix it up and then you put it on just like you would be painting it. And it dyes right into the gourd itself if you want to have color. But it's it comes in little bottles and it's powdery.
And it's called what again?
Leather dye, powdered leather dye. You can get it at Fire Mountain. And Fire Mountain's out of Roseburg, Oregon, but I still use them. They mail order stuff to me. You can make beautiful stuff.
Doesn't Crazy Crow have a lot of that stuff too in it?
I don't use Crazy Crow because Crazy Crow, every time I want something,
They're out of Oklahoma.
yeah, but they never have what I want. To give you, for instance, like here, a natural color for a 5-ounce bundle. 5-ounce bundle is $10. This is off the internet. Huh?
That's right. It ain't hardly nothing. That's why I say if you get a hank of it, it's
Yeah.
$60 or so. And they
And if
measure them out, the question about the length. When we went out and picked these things up, we went out to the forest, it was in Oregon, and we graded it out, checked it out and all that. And it was, actually it was during the fall when, when the leaves would fall and all that. And like she said, you pick up the latest one. Some of them things got bugs in them too, and they get real brittle. And, yeah, you know about that?
Yeah.
I got a bug on me in the National Forest down there at the Crescent City. I didn't know I had this great big old tick.
He got Lyme's disease.
I got to wear that thing for, he was with me for about a week until he, I got Lyme's disease and all kinds of stuff. Just getting those. So.
You might have paid the $60 and get them.
Yeah,
All because
they said he couldn't come back, and I'm saying,
all because he was tormenting me because he was a man, not a woman. He could get out and go potty. And
That's right. I was out there maybe 3 minutes.
Chick got him for it. Payback.
If you go out there and start picking up,
Now see this in here because it's a specified kind. It's pine twist, natural color, $20. 2 bundles, $36.
And those are full price,
And we're talking
way back there,
10,
15 years ago.
that's right about here. I don't want to break my points. Yeah, there you go. Have a bundle for 20
Good way to make
$20
money.
bucks.
$1 million don't go far, used to.
Well, that's true. You can sit around and you just pick up sticks, Hey, I made money today.
Well, anybody that wants to try it and see if it's something they would like, don't buy anything. I have tubs of them. I brought them with me because I didn't know Texas, and I was afraid I'd get out here and they wouldn't have any. Well,
Dave's got all
needless to
that
say,
stuff
they
out
have
there.
them,
That's
but,
what I'm saying, you know.
so I have way more than I need.
People that wanna get into it and they haven't got that product,
Better
laying
cover
in
up,
the
though.
forest, man, they better have a lot of money.
Now see, this shows you the, making the circle and how to lock it together and keep going around and around and around. I have all kinds of patterns that I can share with you. Oh, they even, the colored ones, this is called raw materials, fibers and gourds, and it's off the internet. Okay, this is the different colors that they've dyed these things with. And because it's supposed to be a color that, that they have created from rocks or leaves or, you know, original colors, not man-made colors, but original colors. And you can buy them in colors that way.
Couldn't you use beads for red and stuff like that?
Yeah, you can use anything that'll stain, blueberries, beets, anything that'll stain, you can use for color. Now, like I said, I use Ritz dye. It dyes them real fast and all over. It doesn't, you know, spotty or anything. It cuts out really nice. Huh?
I said I could go to my neighbor and get some wine.
There you go. But
Where do you get the gourds that are so round like that? Are you?
I dig in a big trailer of them. This guy out.
Pittsburgh is a good place to get gourd.
Yeah.
It's a big old lot. Pittsburgh, Texas, not too far from
This,
here.
the guy that
Big
has the
farm.
fruit stand.
Yeah.
There's a big fruit stand out there.
Oh, you mean Ephraim's?
Yeah.
Is it Ephraim's? Yeah.
Yeah, you go out there and you ask him if he's got any gourds, and he'll take you over to this big trailer.
Yeah, there was
Say,
a truck out there loaded.
and then you get what you want, and you say how much, and he'll tell you how much, and he doesn't charge hardly anything.
Is this
But
the guy
you
on
dig
Highway
through-
11?
Huh?
Is this the guy on Highway 11 this side of Pittsburgh?
271.
Yeah. 271.
271.
Bird.
271.
Oh.
We got gourds hanging all over out there.
We got 12
He's the
gourds.
other side of Pilgrim's house. You know Pilgrim? It's on 271. You keep going that way, and yeah, he's on the left-hand side.
We have 12 gourds in our trees around our house that I did cartoon paintings on.
Yeah.
I mean, I did. I said I'll make cartoon paintings, and Gary drilled holes in them, and the birdhouses hanging in our trees. And they've been there. We've been there 9 years, and it was a while after we'd been there. So they've probably been up there 7 years. They're
I'm doing
still up there.
military birdhouses now. I'm putting in I have an LWSS. It's called a lightweight screening system. And it's how you put in camouflage. Well, I got it figured out because you got these spreaders, and there's 3 spreaders for every pole section. I can put 3 birdhouses out on there.
But see, there's no end to what you can do. What I taught you tonight, even if you need to come get a little bit, better, you can do beautiful stuff.
Get copies of those designs.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'd be putting a food bomb out there for them.
See, here's the natural colored ones. Some people don't want the colored, they want natural. So, and this is like my basket I made. You know, the flat thingy bobs there.
With the shells on it.
And here's some more. A lot of these are, well, I can't say a lot of them. Part of them are done with color changes, and part of them are painted on afterwards. And I'll tell you, you have to really search to tell which is the difference if it's done good. The main thing, you can't, when you're coloring one round, you can't get it onto the next round. You've got to take your paintbrush and kind of poke and let the liquid kind of seep down so it doesn't get on the next round. Or you'll have paint on the next round from painting this one. And then they're not very pretty. The ones on my walls at home are these big circulars.
cut around it, where it will fit on it,
Mhm.
and just like, they went different, and they got a solid place, and just like a, I don't want to say it, but it was all the, what you call it, wood with the hot,
With the what?
when it hot and
You put your hot stuff on it, the trivet?
I don't like on that with the pictures.
Oh, the burning in there.
All
Yeah.
the
Oh,
wood.
burning, oh, wood burning.
These are really pretty, but the one at the top, the wheat design, that's my favorite. That is the one I really like, is the wheat design. And it's it's an old design. I kind of like staying pretty natural. I think these are beautiful, but to me, these scream modern. They don't scream Indian, they scream modern because of the designs that are used in them. That's the other thing. If you're making them, you do some research and find the design that is for your tribe, and you use that colors and that design in your work. It makes a whole big difference too. I mean, if you make them for yourself, it's one thing. If you make them to sell, you cannot say they are Cherokee designed if they're not. So, I mean, with my card, if I started saying that this was this tribe or that tribe and it wasn't, I could get in a lot of trouble. And I would deserve it because we're trying to preserve our culture and our ways and things that they did. And how can you do it if you're for money selling something that isn't
Authentic.
what it's authentic and what it's supposed to be? So when I do these, I do a. I mean, this is pretty, but I love the wheat pattern. So a lot of mine are just a natural color, but like, you know, just like this one sits on one of my stands, and I turn the lid upside down. Whoops, I can't reach her out there. I put my little bead work around it, and it sits on my stand. Just like that. How simple can that get? Now I can't get it on there. Anyhow, that hangs around it.
So what prices of those different?
These here,
Those,
these basic ones are mostly, there's not very many tribes that don't have the basic ones. When you get into some of more of the pattern ones, that's when you got to be careful, because if that pattern right there was a certain tribe and you said it was a different one, then people would look at you kind of funny. But the basic stitches like this and like this are the most common in a lot of the tribes. They did a lot more, not so much pine needle, they did more reed. Reed baskets are much more popular with a bigger variety of tribes than the pine needle. Because if they were in an area where there wasn't pine needles, they didn't make pine needle baskets. Because Indians in the old ways, the easiest way to figure out what they did is to figure out where they lived.
Yeah.
When I taught in high school in Portland, Oregon, and my students would ask me, well, what color basket did such and such tribe use? Well, I didn't know that tribe. So I'd go like, well, I'm not sure, I'll have to research. And because I was coming back the next day to work with some more. And so I'd go home and I thought, I got to find out. And you know what, and all of a sudden it hit me. It's so simple what they used. Where did they live? If you take anywhere on the map and stick your finger on it, and you start researching that area, what grasses, what flowers, what trees, what bushes grow there, that's what they made their stuff out of, because they used what was there. They didn't go forever and shop in this store and that store trying to find what they wanted. They took what was right there. So I went back and told my students to do that, and that they could know what every tribe in the United States uses. They were ecstatic. They said, "Oh, that's so easy." I said, "That's the biggest problem between the whites and the Indians, is the whites did it so simply because they didn't trouble themselves with getting all messed up with trying to figure things out. It was there, they used it. You know, they didn't have to hunt all over for it."
That's
So-
why somebody said not long ago that it was the clay in this part of the country.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you said that last week.
Yeah,
It was down, it came from Oklahoma, and they had to come back and get it down here.
yeah, they have that clay. Yeah. I traveled all over the United States. There's only 2 states I haven't been in, and that's Alaska and Hawaii. And you look at their soil as you're changing, as you're going from one state to another state. You look at the soil, and I don't know where we were not too long ago. We were somewhere, and I told Gary, I said, "Huh?
Dallas is black.
Yeah, it
Dirt.
was black." And I said, "Soil here's red. How come that's so black?"
Good bottom soil there.
Gary said, "Well, it just is." But see, I notice things like that because I taught all this stuff so many times that I'm always looking to see what's different and what they would use.
It's orange on the way to Mount Vernon.
But see, in Oregon, it's not that color at all. You know, and I'm going like, all these colors are different. And you get in the Carolinas and it's really red there. I mean, red. But yeah, it's interesting just to look at the different trees and the different bushes and figure out the colors they used when they lived there. And you can almost visualize the tribes and what they're doing there, you know.
See, there was 2 pottery plants in Winsboro, and they carried all that red clay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really, I mean, there's so many things that people could be feeling good about and dabbling in instead of all this bickering and fighting. You know, they don't want to run anything, they just want to fight. You know, they like fighting. I mean, it's part of their, yeah, they just got fighting in their system, and everything has to be fought about. And so, if they want to fight, let them fight. I'm not going there.
So that red clay, when you go from Winsboro to Hickman, on the railroad track, there used to be dig the dirt there for pottery.
Hmm. Yeah, it's, you know, these things are fun, and when you get away from them for a while, I've been away from this stuff for a while since I've been so sick, and I really miss it. I go out in the shop and I want to do this and I want to do that, and I go, I just haven't got the energy to do it, you know. But I really miss doing all my crafts, and how I had 8 kids to take care of, worked full-time in a sawmill, and did my crafts. I made my stuff, I mean, I just made time for it. I don't know how, because I can't even find to have time for it now when there's nothing but me and Gary, and we're retired, you know. But the older you get, the slower you get, so I guess that's the answer. But I really miss, I have a lot of gourds cut, ready to be done. And you just look at them and think, oh, not today. But it doesn't help keep my spirit up, because this is where I'm happy. This is when I'm doing my thing. No matter which one of my crafts it is, when I'm doing it, I'm happy.
Well, now we're going to Pittsburgh to go get Gourds now.
Yeah.
Because Linda's going to go get Gourds.
Yeah, and I have tubs of gourds
That's a good
too.
place to get them, though. We got a bunch of them.
That's good to know, I was gonna go out there a couple of
Yeah. You can grow your own too, you know. You can grow your own, that's what they do. You know, you can grow your own stuff.
I'm more impatient than that.
Yeah, if you take a gander at, where is it at? Like, see, this in here is another one of those round ones. You could make it into things to use. But if you look at some of these, you can get some ideas of different shapes that you can pick up and do. And like when I cut like some of those necks, the ones with the necks, if you cut that neck off at the right spot, that it can be a stand at the bottom, and then you can have your neck and you make it into different things. You know, I don't throw any of it away. I just use it for some other portion for something else that I'm making.
And then when you do the gourds though, there's a way you can preserve them, and I learned how to do that by making some of these things into these birdhouses. And I forgot where in the heck I got it, but you can buy the commercial stuff, like it's a wood treatment, or you can make your own, and I forget what that kind of chemicals you put together, but it'll preserve this stuff, otherwise it'll rot away real, you know, especially if there's weather.
So how do you preserve them? What do you put on?
Well, let's see, what the heck was that? It was a couple different, it wasn't bleach, it was lye and something else that you put together.
Well,
You
you
soak
end up
them,
making
you soak them
mustard
overnight,
gas.
and you know, it preserves it. Yeah.
Here's,
Or you can go out and get that wood preservative, because
Yeah,
you got a husk type thing,
yeah.
and you gotta clean out all the seeds, all the malarkey out of them when you first get them, even if they're dried up.
And then
you can grow more.
see, this one isn't completely
Like that,
cleaned
right there.
inside.
You gotta
It has
scrape
lots
off
of-
the inside, you know. And if you blow it, well, you got another one, you know, 'cause you can crack those things.
This is also an answer to the question you had. This is a book that shows how to change colors if you want to. And they use a thing in their hand that's like an awl that they use to thread these things. I use these big darning needles. The big dove-nosed ones that have the big hole for an eye. So this will thread through it. But this shows how they did it with an awl needle. And it shows how to change colors, how to make your different things. It even shows you how to make your tools that you use,
Wow.
if you want to do it the way they do it. But this is a really good book too. A lot of information in it.
Where did you purchase the books?
Huh?
Where did you purchase the books at?
I don't know. I don't know which ones I purchased and which ones was passed down to me. Some were just passed down to me.
You can find anything on Amazon.
Yeah, if you have the
Or
authors.
A books. ABE, A books. They're really great for books that are like on print and stuff. And they're really cheap, like $6-8.
Because I'm sure some of, oh, like this one here, I paid a whole $1 for it somewhere.
Yeah, see, A books, if they have it, they wouldn't have it for much.
But if you need any addresses off here or anything,
Got a great big library, not library, but
They're probably
bookstore.
selling them for a good price though.
They, oh, yeah.
Yeah, there you go, see?
Oh, well, what's that kid's name? Wes,
Stevie?
Yeah, he was up there. He was at the bookstore. You know, he's a guy that did Last Mohegans and all that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, anytime you get a touristy area, you're gonna get a lot of money for your books.
Well,
now see these here I soaked before I came tonight. Now, I'll take them out to the craft shop and I'll spread them out on a dry towel. And turn them a couple times if they need it to make sure they're dry again before I put them away. And then I can use the same ones for doing whatever I want to do again. But see, I got all different sizes in here. Very maybe little ones, big ones.
Are you still getting these gourds? Or you're somebody stole all these?
I've got, I think 6 is all I've got left
Oh, here's something I forgot to tell you.
in the tub right
When you go with it?
See these right here? Say you're working with this, and you got it going, and you got to stop. I just take it like this, and I put my clip on it. You can clip it there, or you can clip it here. I use these clips to keep it from undoing what I'm doing, so it won't unravel or fall apart. So I tell everybody, you know, straws, clothespins, a little knife, some glycerin, and some sinew, you're on your way. And actually, none of it is, you know, a lot of this stuff is like things you use for, that's a shell, and like the walnuts, and this is just winding the sinew around the strings to make those different patterns. And the sinew can be, that's the neat part about sinew. You can choose, I never say anything about that, and I should have. Like if I'm going to make some, if I want it to be something that the threading on it is going to be a pattern, I use more of this at a time, so it'll show up. If I'm wanting it to just be there to lock it together, then you can use a smaller amount. But if I wanted to do this one, and I wanted that pattern to show those lines, you'd want to have a wider strand. If you're doing something and you don't necessarily need it to show that much, then all you have to do with this stuff is just take a hold of it like this and pull it apart. Pull it apart to the size you want it.
Is that harder to work with than the sinew?
Yeah, it is.
Drier and more brittle?
It's pretty though. I mean, you know, like I said, I love this pattern right here. It's pretty, you know, it makes it colorful.
You know, I believe you can make your own sinew, and when I was growing up doing different things, I did a lot of maritime type stuff, and what we did, we took thread over wax, and that's basically what sinew is. You wax up a strand of string, and that you're making sinew. Now, what the commercial stuff is, I'm not too sure anymore. But it is so strong, that stuff is so strong.
You can buy wax thread in there.
Right, wax thread, you can buy wax thread, or you can make your own. And what we did, like we sewed sea bags or something like that, you take that thread and you just keep waxing it with beeswax. And that made everything waterproof, preserved it, and all that kind of stuff.
But yeah, I mean, it's fun to do. And you can go a long ways in a short time once you get that. The thing you've got to get used to is when you're concentrating on this and working this like you want it, to not forget to feed. Because all of a sudden you'll go, oh, it's going to fall off. Oh, I forgot to feed it. Now you gotta pull this up as far as you can get it and start fitting some in and start sliding it back and getting it tightened back up and going again. But that's when you first start learning, trying to remember to feed is usually the hardest part of it. You'll get going and forgot to feed it. But it gets hungry and you gotta keep feeding it, or it won't do anything for you. But it's fascinating how these are, how there's 3 strands to them. And like I said, if this is tight, pretty soon you learn just how much tension it needs. But if it's not quite tight enough, you can always take one that you found along the way that was 1 strand. No, and put that 1 strand in there. If you put 3, it's going to be too much. You know, if you don't have a 1 strand, you can pop one off, but usually you can find a 1 strand. And the trick is just putting it right down there in the middle. And look at it. You can't tell I put it in there. It disappeared. But see, it's too tight now with that in there. So that one has to come back out because it's too tight. But just keep this so it's snug, I guess is what you call it. Not tight, not loose, snug. It'll move. And then you've got it going. But it's a lot of fun when you get going, because you can start creating your own pattern, your own colors, your own thing. You don't have to do set exactly like the next guy. I mean, you use these things. I use books and patterns and stuff for ideas to feed my mind to keep the creation going. You don't have to copy it, you just need to have an idea of where you're going and what you want yours to look like. And that gives you an idea of how to accomplish that. A lot of times you'll think of something, and then you'll start looking in books to find out just how they do it. And other times you go like, I don't know how I want it to go. And so you look at a bunch of them, and pretty soon you see something, that's what I really want right there. And it gives you the idea, and then you're off going.
Linda, tell them a little bit about one of the subjects you painted and why this little old gal by the name of Eliza, or Indian Liz, her name was Eliza, and she was blind, and she was a basket weaver.
Yeah.
She was the last of the full-blooded California Indian, and that was in Brownsville, Oregon.
She was blind for 20 years, and she did beautiful baskets up until the very last. She did her baskets.
Yeah, that's one of the subjects that she did, and Representative May from that was around 1995, I believe it was. Anyhow, that picture was done of her, but she was weaving this basket in front of the Moyer house. And she was really a historical little gal, blind and all that. Her bride's price was a shotgun and 2 horses. And she always went up to Salem she'd hike up to Salem to visit her husband in prison. It was nostalgic, but that was the most notable basket weaver we ever came across.
Well, actually, I was trying to think how we ended up getting up there. I do too know how. We were up at Brownsville, and I had went into the museum to see if they would sell my cards. And she said she'd love to, but she says, I got something else I'd love you to do. And she took me over to this real old picture, black and white one on the wall. And she said, we love this lady. She said, so much of Brownsville has things that are to do with her. And she said it would be so neat if you could take this picture and make it color, still black and white, and hang beside this black and white one in our museum. I said, no problem. So I did it, and then it was presented at a powwow where the governor and all kinds of different people showed up and were involved, speakers in it. And my original I have, but the first print off my originals they have in the museum, sitting next to the black and white one. So.
One of the corners on that, and I was going to talk about this, I just seen one of these the other day out looking out there. The woodpecker, it was called a flicker. The most prized thing by the ladies in the days was the top knot off the woodpecker, which is a red feathers. And Eliza, that was her thing too. And she had this act that she wove, that's what I was talking about. She was a basket weaver. So in one corner, you got this basket, and the other one's got the top knot off the wall, actually, the woodpecker with a flicker. And then I got my Thunderbird, and then I can't remember what the other one was. Oh, it was the canoe, because they were some of the most famous dugout canoe makers of that era was the California Indians. And she was the last of the full-bloods out there. She died around 1930.
Right now, at home on my work table, I came up with this idea of this Thunderbird. But what it is I did it with the glass beads that you can see, you can see light through. What do you call them? Clear, iridescent. Is how it's made. And it, he's like this. He's got, and on all the points of the feathers, I have those wrinkly. You take a straight line and you have these beads coming out all on it. I made it like the feathers of its tail and its wings and stuff. And I'm stretching it out. I think I got 2 more points to tie off, and I'm stretching that out on a leather wrapped dream catcher wire. And he's gonna be, you know, stretched out like this in it. And I've been working on that. And Gary and I have been doing stuff together forever. And he walked over and looked at it, and he said, "That's mine." And that's the first time he's ever said, "That's mine." So when it's, and he says, "And see that spot right above my chair?" He said, "That's where it's gonna hang." But I asked him many times, "How would you like this?" "Nah, it's okay. Just, you know, I enjoy stuff with you." But he just looked at it and he said, "That's on all of our, I never even thought about it, but on all the frames of all of our Indian chiefs and maidens, he has that on the upper corner." And it wasn't even in my mind when I did it. I just did it. So it's almost done. We'll have to bring it and show it to you. Because it's a pretty good size. It's about like that. But he really likes that. So it took a lot of years to find something he liked.
See, every now and then.
Very slow.
We went to our first outdoor movie here in,
Discriminating, that's good. My husband likes it, no, you can't sell that. No, that's not good. Just stop it.
No, Gary's too into money to say that. I'm surprised he didn't want to sell this.
oh, the next one?
Yeah, you said about the Cherokee in this area, or whatever.
Oh, the letter?
Oh, the 14-page letter? Is that what you're talking about?
Talking about the Chickamaugas?
I don't know.
Well,
Last week, we said about having the Cherokee in Texas.
oh, well.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah,
You was talking about that.
I just talked about the book. I've been really reading up on that, and some of the stuff that I was finding out about. Nacogdoches is one of the biggest areas out there when the things are going on. This is just before the Alamo, the Battle of the Alamo, and there was the book that I was reading, a little green book. I think Joe Dan got him a book. I was a Texas Cherokees.
Is that the one you're volunteering to do a program on?
Well,
Yeah,
I don't know about one.
that's the one, Gary.
I can sit back and read it.
Well, did you guys, what I showed you tonight, did you get an idea of how this all works?
Yes,
Well,
it's
actually,
very helpful. Thank
you
you.
know what
As far as supplies, I'm serious. Don't run out and go buy them. I've got tubs of pine needles, tubs of stuff that you need to do it
Yeah, I
with,
hope
so.
you try it sometime.